Okay, I got it.
Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome to the Cappella Podcast. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm doing really good. The kids are asleep and I'm I just got off a phone call with my friend. So I this is like as good as it gets as a mom, right? Like I'm
Right. Right.
recharged and ready to go.
Yeah. So one interesting thing I'd love for you to mention, right from the start is where you're calling from today to record this podcast episode.
Yeah, so we currently live in Tokyo, Japan. So we've been
Hmm.
here about 3 months now, I have three children who are currently, let's see if I can remember all of their ages. They're currently 11, 9, and just turned 7. So we've moved to the big city. We lived in Europe for a little bit, in the Netherlands, and we've lived all over the United States. But this has definitely been the biggest of the moves to something
Hmm.
very unfamiliar. And also, we've never like lived in a big city. So a lot of change.
And I'm super excited about this episode today because we'll get to talk about parenting, but one of my favorite topics ever is traveling. So I'm really excited to dive deep into traveling. I guess you kind of answered that next question already, but can you give us a brief kind of overview of who you are and what you're up to in life, except traveling that you just mentioned, but what else do you do? And what's your story kind of with your building your family and
Yeah, so I am a mom of three littles, and I currently co-host a parenting podcast on Slate called Mom and Dad Are Fighting, where we give parenting advice. People write in, and we also just kind of talk about our experiences. None of us are experts, like we haven't studied this, but we're like in the trenches living this.
Mhm.
So I started out actually as an attorney and met my husband who's in the US Air Force. And that meant we were moving around and we were married for a bit and had our first kid. And it just became sort of like, as we were talking about our family values, it was like, okay, I'm going to stay home because to manage kind of his career and the kids, it just felt like someone needs to be a constant. It's going to be me. We went on to have three kids and move around everywhere. I homeschooled for many years. The kids were in school in the Netherlands, homeschooled the whole time we were in the United States, and now they're back in school here. So I feel like I've sort of done it all. We're big believers of kind of making choices for the family and the kids, like I'll say like each year, but I mean kind of like anytime we have a change, we're thinking like, okay, what's best for each kid? What's best for us? What's best? And I just think that little thing in parenting gave me so much flexibility because so often we become stuck on one thing. I'm going to breastfeed, or I'm going to co-sleep, or I'm going to do this. And then it doesn't turn out like sometimes it turns out exactly how you wanted it, and that's great. But sometimes it doesn't. And realizing that I could just be like, nah, I don't want to do that anymore. And that's okay. Has been just like the
Yeah.
greatest positive, I think, influence in my life and in parenting. Being able to be like, yeah, we're going to try this. Cool.
Yeah, definitely. One of the first questions I wanted to ask you, and it's so funny because you kind of already answered it, but you often think of parenting as like something that requires a structure and a balance. And so traveling is more something that's spontaneous and you kind of make decisions on the go. So how do you balance the spontaneity of like travel with the structure of parenting and doing stuff that kind of is a routine or something like that with kids.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
super important.
the funny thing is that I feel like I really love to be prepared. My husband is for sure type A, and I have lots of type A tendencies. Like I love to have a good schedule. I love to have everything written. How are we going to handle this? How are we going to, do all of this? This is what I do with parenting. And I think what kids sort of taught me was they're actually they're constantly changing. There's nothing standard about them. They're all different. They change day to day. They change month to month. What worked yesterday doesn't always work today. And so what you need to do in life is sort of have this collection of tools that you're going to use. And I think I just sort of applied that to our travel as well to say like, okay, we love to travel. We have children now. We traveled before, so we are going to try to keep traveling. But that means that not everything is going to look the same. And
Hmm.
one trip, maybe we're hitting all of the highlights and we're doing all the things we would have done. And the next trip is just like the kids are napping and
Yeah.
we're missing a tour, or the kids are, and that is it's okay. I tried to just eliminate the value judgments as much as I could. Like, well, the trip's not worth it unless we do all of this, or like these kids will never remember. We just tried to eliminate all of that from our vocabulary. And what we found is like, we actually ended up having way more authentic trips. Like with the kids, we were able to experience more of the culture. And I actually write about, I should have mentioned, I have a travel blog about traveling with families called Dutch Goose. And it is sort of the things we find along the way that we did with kids, what went well, what didn't go well, to say like, you can do this. You can change a diaper in the middle of a street or a museum and it's going to be okay. Like you can get into a museum and your kid can scream and you can leave and it's okay.
Yeah.
Like your trip is not ruined. You can see the 40 playgrounds of Sweden and go home and be like, Sweden was great.
So traveling with children, you just mentioned a lot of the things like changing diapers in weird places and kind of letting go of the pressure of thinking the child needs to see all of these things in order for the travel or the visit to be successful. What are tips? Because you have children that are like 2 and 4 years apart, if I can do the math correctly.
Yes, yeah.
So what are your top tips for traveling with children of different age groups and how to adapt to the need? Especially if you have 3, you're kind of outnumbered. So how did you manage all of that?
Yeah. So I think, first of all, we have always really strived to be kind of a team. So we talk a lot about like what we're doing for our team, which means that sometimes we are doing activities that are not our favorite. So sometimes we're doing things that mom and dad really want to do. Sometimes we're at places for the little one. And especially with my 11-year-old, I try to give him tasks where he can help me. Like he's a great buddy to the youngest, right? Like the two of them are able to go off and do things at things that are more geared. Because I think now the issue is like we'll be at something that's geared towards the 7-year-old. And this was more true like 5, 6. We're still going to like younger play groups that are play museums or, and the 11-year-old is like not really engaged. So he reads a lot. We are literally like, I know you don't want to be here or you don't want to do this. You're welcome to go find a seat and like read your Kindle. But
That's
2,
great.
having them be the buddy. And I mean, we've done this for a long time because I traveled a lot alone with 3. And it was like sometimes Henry, who's my oldest, was pushing the stroller. Like that was his job so that I could deal with whatever kid was not in the stroller, right? Sometimes he's the one going and getting things and handing it out or helping. So making them kind of partners in things and bringing things to engage the kids that are not engaged. I think the other thing is that nearly everything can be adapted for little kids. So if you want to go to an art museum and my oldest is fully capable of walking around and looking at things, we typically will send them in with like everyone gets a little art pad and the oldest can go find something he loves to draw. The middle can do some of that, right? The little one, that's a little bit harder of an assignment. So we might say to him, like, in this room, which piece of art would you pick to put in your house? Okay, what colors do we see? Let's just draw those colors on there. Can I help you draw, right? What do you see in this? What animals can we find in here? So adapting those spaces and really assigning yourself to the kid that's going to have the hardest time and making this fun, right? Like, okay, let's do the scavenger hunt. There's just like a million games you can play in an art museum. And trusting the older one to like, go, we're going to stay on this floor. You can go anywhere. He has a watch at this time. Meet us back at the elevator. Like I do a lot of that. And they're totally fine. He's 11. I know I can trust him to do that. Like you can't trust your 5-year-old, but you can certainly give these older kids some chance. I think with older kids, the thing is to have some buy-in. So if we're going on a trip, Henry is for sure probably scouring YouTube for some videos about the place we're going. I usually ask him, we do all of our trip planning on a Google document, and I invite him to that document and he will make little notes on it. I saw this on a video, or I want to try this food. And then we make sure that that's part of the itinerary. The little ones, we might get a book from the, library or show them some things and ask them to pick things they might want to do. Now, listen, a lot of the times it's like, I saw an ice cream place or I saw a playground.
Mm-hmm.
We try to treat those as equally valid, right? Like it's
Mm-hmm.
totally cool that you want to taste the ice cream everywhere. Let's use Google Maps to find a cool ice cream shop, like giving them some buy-in to the trips.
Yeah, I love that. I love the like also the book thing that you mentioned, because if one kid isn't interested, then they might as well be learning something else instead of like, reading a book. How do you feel that traveling has or will in the long run impact your children compared to if it had like a quote unquote more, normal life in the same place, like not traveling a lot or just traveling here
Yeah.
and there, but making it a whole kind of lifestyle? How do you feel that this will positively impact children? Because I think it will definitely
Yeah.
positively impact them.
I hope it's
Um,
good. I hope
yeah.
it's good. Some days, listen, some days if you read the blog, you'll know I'm like, what are we doing? Like this. Why did we just fly all these people here?
Yeah.
I think already it has made them realize both what a small place this world is and what a big place this world is.
Yeah.
They know that everywhere we have been, there are children who, like to play, that live in many different ways. They have seen many different types of houses, and that all of them share joy in the same types of things. They have seen the many different types of food and clothing and all of this that we have. So I think both seeing that people come in every shape, size, color, religion, beliefs, all of those things, because they have seen them. But also realizing that like no matter those things, we're the same in so many ways. And my hope is that we have always said that kind of one of the reasons we wanted to take them places was that inherent feeling of being citizens of the world, and that as they grow up, and this is yet to be seen, right? This is the hope that as they grow up, they will try to do right, not by their country or by any smaller subset, but by their experience in having met all these people. And as they read the news or hear things, that they can identify with every person that they're reading about, every, victim and tragedy and all of that they are real to them. Because I think that makes you a better person to be able to say like, yes, these people may not look like me. Their house that I'm seeing may not look like mine, but these, I know, I have seen that. I know that these are people.
Exactly. That's why I love traveling so much. And I was also raised kind of two different countries and got to experience a lot of that. And I'm so grateful to my parents that, we were French, we lived in Germany. It's not like crazy, different place, but, and then I got to travel a lot, and I'm so thankful because that like, exactly what you were describing. And I think it's so good for the kids, but I really wanted to hear it from, so thank you for sharing.
I want to say too that sorry, can I just add that I think you can get that even with your baby. Like I don't think that they need to be like cognitively aware of it. I think I believe in my heart, I have no science to back this up, that like your baby sitting at a cafe experiencing different food and seeing different people and being held, if you've taken your baby to like Italy or Greece, like other people there just hold your baby. It's like amazing. But having all of that somehow rewires them even from a young age. And if you are not able to travel far, you can have this same experience by just going to different places in your own, getting out of your own comfort zone and doing different things, and going to cultural festivals and going to different neighborhoods, and just exposing your kids that everything is not this one little very safe world that we live in. And it is nice to have that safe. I don't want to downplay kids feeling safe in their environments. I think that's wonderful, but you can achieve this even if you are not all over the right. You're living in the middle of the United States that feels very big, or the middle of Germany even feels very big. Like how do I, you can still have this for you and for your children.
That's a great point, because I was about to ask, there's two things that you just mentioned. One, are my kids young to travel, like remember anything? Is it even worth the like bus, taking the plane, and all the like difficulties that come with traveling with younger kids? And then the second point was also the fact that I don't remember the second point that you just mentioned, but I know it was important. It was like feeling like you can inside your own town kind of mock travel, or even if you can't go far. You can't feel like you've experienced and please get out of the and not take a plane. That's fine. Awesome. Well, can you share with us how you feel that traveling has affected family dynamics and relationships inside the family? And I'm especially thinking siblings and like sibling relationships. Do you think they're strengthened by the fact that, you're kind of a stronger family unit because you're like all five of you in a foreign place, or you discover something new, all five of you? And so do you think that it strengthens the bond between the different siblings or between parents?
Yeah, that's such
How
a
does
good
it affect the
question.
dynamic?
I'm hopeful that we're stronger, and I certainly see it moving to Tokyo. It's like until the kids make individual friends, a lot of times we're all that we have. Certainly
Yeah.
when we travel, it's like your siblings are who you have to play with. And I do see like they value each other in that way, in terms of like they go to each other when they're scared or they are apprehensive. They know that they can ask each other, like, well, I'm nervous about doing this task or something. Will you come with me? Like just within themselves, right? And they have this whole shared experience to draw on and kind of have these inside jokes as a family. That is not to say, though, that we are like a house free of fighting, or when we're traveling, there's no fighting. Like they are still siblings. My children still get mad at each other and fight and scream at each other. I will say that particularly when Jeff is not traveling with us, they like know that I am not my best self, and I am often super stressed in it, particularly in airports when Jeff is not with us. Like I just am, I'm one of those people that like is constantly checking, do I have our passports? Do we have and if it's not exactly where I put it, I panic.
Yeah.
They have become very good at recognizing those stress moments and helping each other and helping me. We fly really well, and all of that is nothing but practice. They were not born good flyers. We just have had the opportunity to fly a lot and to be in cars a lot. And each time was a little bit easier. And now they are great. Like with three of them, one of them has to sit by themselves. It's typically the 11-year-old, but sometimes due to circumstances, it might be a different one. And they're really great. Like they know how to ask for assistance from people. I can count on them to, as a group, go to a bathroom because, of course, I have three boys and I'm a girl. So in a lot of places, there's not a bathroom we can all use together. They've developed a lot of those skills relying on each other. And I'm hopeful that those bonds will like make us a stronger family. I mean, we certainly have been through many, I don't want to say like scary situations, but situations like of panic or us being lost or travel plans just kind of going off the rails as a family. And I do think that makes us strong. Like we'll often be like, we're all fine. Like that's one of the things the kids repeat when we're stressed. Like we're safe. We're like, our bodies are safe. We have food, we have water, we have the ability to like get the right kind of cash kind of situation. We're okay. And those are things that like we're constantly repeating as a group. Like we have everybody. So but I say that and people are like, oh, it must be so easy. I'm like, oh no, they have still like, we have been in the middle of the Louvre, or we were just in Taiwan and the kids are like punching each other somewhere. Like they're still brothers.
Yeah. I mean, that's normal. Like if they didn't punch each other, it wouldn't be brothers. Like, so yeah, about challenges and overcoming them. What are like the biggest, like, do you have some examples of challenges in traveling with kids and dealing with disruptions of routines or just unexpected stuff coming up? How do you address that? How do you deal with that? I guess you kind of already answered it with we're good, we're safe, but if someone's really scared of like taking the leap and starting to travel with their kids, do you have any other like processes in place on how to deal with something that is challenging, unexpected, and what would you recommend someone do to care themselves for situation?
I think, parenthood is really scary. It's really scary because this is your first time too. Like no matter what, even if you have 3 kids, 5 kids, it doesn't matter. This is your first time with kids that age, that many children. So I start by always trying to give myself grace. Like we think of children as like, oh, they're children and this is their first time. It's your first time too. You have never been on this flight with these children. You have never been in this museum, this whatever with these kids. So you deserve grace. The next thing is all of the things that happen to you travel could happen if you were at home. So you did not bring this upon yourself. You made it a little bit harder because you don't have your but I always think like, because I just think you're more panicked, like you're kind of more on high alert because you don't have those comforts. But I just think all of this could happen at home. What are the differences and how am I going to solve that? I think the big thing with little kids is they are unpredictable and they need a lot of stuff. So when I had little kids, it was like packing was so important. Packing and talking to local moms, which now thanks to like Facebook, there are a million Facebook groups where you can get on before you travel and say, hey, I'm coming there. Where do I get formula? Where do I get whatever you need? Baby wipes. What is the brand? Can you send me a picture? Like be prepared with those because you are going to run out. You are going to, I ask sometimes like, what do your kids eat at restaurant? I think if you're at a restaurant, the people serving you also have children. So even if you have to use Google Translate to type, what would you feed a kid this age? Like, what are kids this age ordering? That is something we still do. Like I said, we were just in Taiwan and we were in this tiny town and we went to this very authentic Taiwanese restaurant. I Google translated and I thought like, okay, based on the pictures, here's 2 things my husband and I will eat. And I literally typed on my phone to the server, the kids are 11, 6, and, and whatever, and 9. If these were your children, what would you order? And she was like, no problem. I'll bring a few things out. And it was, she just brought out like more simpler dishes, right? Like lighter sauces, no spice. So don't be afraid to ask for those things.
Love that.
I think also wherever you are, these people, this culture, they have babies and those babies throw up, poop, cry, right? Those are the 3 things you're most worried about. Like something has come out of the baby or the baby is upset. And even with older kids, like here in Japan, everybody is like so quiet. We are so loud. These kids still have meltdowns. And if you take a minute and like stand, you will see them. So just know, I always think the first thing that's happening when is that panic that rises inside the parent. And so often my first step is to just think again, like we are safe. Nothing about this is unsafe. If my child sits in a poopy diaper for 2 minutes, they are okay. If we eat something that is not their favorite, we are okay. So like, are you safe? If you're not safe, obviously get emergency help. Like that's a very different scenario, but like 98% of the time, physically everyone is safe. And so you just need to calm down and think like, okay, what do I need? Do I need something? Parents in these other places will lend you diapers. We were in an airport once and I can't remember where, but I'm really thinking it was Poland. And our child, remember how old he was, but he pooped through his diaper so bad that he pooped his pants. And I had checked, typically I would carry an extra pair of pants. I cannot remember why I did not have one. I have 3 children. You would think I would have had some pants. I think maybe at the last minute, the airline had like offered to check the bag and we checked it, something like that. I had no pants. And I literally found a like airport playground. And again, using Google Translate, asked a parent like, hey, I have nothing. Where can I buy a diaper? They, of course, had a diaper they were happy to give me. They told me there was a like H&M on one of the concourses. Like this other parent fixed my problem. So don't be afraid to add. The worst that they say is they're like, I don't understand what you're asking. And you're no worse off. Right? You can make a diaper out of a swat. Like there's a million things you could do.
Yeah, you got to get creative too at some point. If no one can help you, then you need to be creative. But people usually want to help each other, and no matter where you are.
Especially with kids. Like I always think kids are like the great connector. We have been nowhere where people are largely more helpful and kinder to you because you have children. As long as you're keeping your cool. Right? Like I think the only time you get bad looks is if you have lost your mind on your children. So do whatever you have to do to not have that happen.
Yeah, that's actually a great point for someone who might be hesitant and scared of traveling is like your kid's actually going to help you, connect more because you can just, people are so nice to kids. It'll just be like, hey, and then it will help you kind of feel or spark a conversation with a stranger more easily and feel safer and better. So it might actually even be a good thing to travel with your kids. So one thing that we love to touch on in this show and that you deal a lot with is online presence because you have your blog, you also
Yeah.
have a podcast, you have a YouTube channel, you have an
Yeah.
Instagram. I'm probably forgetting stuff, but how do you decide what family moments to share publicly on like your social media? How do you decide what to keep private? Because that's obviously a huge thing that
Yeah.
young parents now with social media are dealing with.
Yeah.
Like share, what can I not share, and what are your how do those?
Yeah, I think it's really hard. And I think the answer for everyone is different. And
Mhm.
I think that at the end of the day, you have to make the decision based on like what you feel comfortable with, what your situation is. So, I never want to like share and be like, this is the way, because it's not the way for
Yeah,
everyone. Um,
yeah,
when they were little, we always tried to think like, is this going to be embarrassing? And I
yeah,
certainly tell stories that are embarrassing things that happen, but I try to be very mindful of the fact that like these are children. They
yeah,
are completely acting within what how children should act, which is
yeah,
children are supposed to react to their environment. There are ages in which they are absolutely supposed to be pushing back on you. And so
yeah.
validating like that experience. So I try not to share, particularly like in pictures or anything like that, with anyone other than maybe, my best friend and my
Mhm.
parents,
Yeah,
like pictures of the kids doing things that are embarrassing or naughty. Now with the oldest one, because of course social media has moved so much more to like videos. When I
yeah,
started, it was like write
yeah,
a little story and include a picture.
yeah.
I try to let him like we'll take a series of videos and I usually will hand him the phone and just say delete anything that you're not happy
Mm.
that has him in it, because I feel like that's his
Yeah,
right to things. We also anything that we're paid for and the kids are in, they are paid for. Like they are we treat them in that sense like employees of
mhm,
the if you participated in this trip and for whatever reason we're getting paid, we're getting whatever, you have a share in that. But trying to give them ownership of that. I also continue to talk to the kids like about their presence, because they're like, I have this podcast and their names are out there. We talk a lot about
mhm,
safety, about what to do if someone were to know their names that they didn't know. Like when they were little, we ran a lot of safety drills. What do you do if
mhm.
you're lost? Let's
Yeah,
practice. Where do you go? Like all of those sort of things have been
yeah.
drilled in. I don't know that I have the right answer. Like I go through periods where I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be sharing any of this. But at the end of the day, we've kind of decided like, okay, well, we want people to travel. We want to be able to share what we're doing. And as long as we're giving them some ownership of it, if at any point they ever ask me and we tell them this to take something down, we absolutely would, right? Like if all of a
Yeah.
sudden they were like, hey, I know I said it was okay, but I don't feel that way anymore. To the best of
Mhm.
our ability, we would pull that down.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so interesting because your oldest is almost kind of old enough now where he's able to, be really aware of what it is and what it means. Because obviously, with baby, share whatever
Yeah.
your baby's doing, but your baby is. But now that he's in this age where you start to like really get an understanding, it's even more interesting, like how he looks back on his parts of his life
Yeah.
being online and his name being online and yeah, life story. So yeah, that's super
And
interesting
it is,
topic.
I mean, to that, it's nice. Like he will go and look at he
Hmm.
loves going to look at
Yeah,
old
yeah,
videos
okay.
and stuff of things. It's funny though, because he does really have a sense of like, I would say when I hand him the phone, he usually deletes like quite a few pictures. There are pictures he
Hmm.
doesn't like. And it's so funny because, of course, to me, I mean, listen, I don't post things of myself that I don't like the way they look.
Yeah.
But to me, he's so cute, right?
Yeah.
And I also though want him to know that if he, for whatever reason, he doesn't even have to tell me why. It's his like I want him to have some ownership that what I'm putting
Yeah.
out there he feels proud of and that he feels comfortable.
Yeah. Yes, that's definitely so important. And I can't wait to see how the next couple of years are going to develop with that whole thematic of like social media, children sharing. Because
Yeah.
I think like I saw some crazy number that like half of babies have somehow their picture or something about them online by like 6 months of age or something like that. So people will share. But like, how do children then respond to that
Yeah.
thing? For me, at least, to understand, and parents make those things. I guess like on a lighter note, you've obviously, created kind of a community because people listening to your podcast, you probably have a lot of people DMing you, messaging you about asking for advice. How would you say that having an online community influences your choices and your family travels? And
Yeah.
how do you take kind of all the feedback? I don't know if you have any negativity online, but I guess a lot of people have
There's
it.
quite a bit related to,
So
I would
yeah.
say the negativity usually comes from articles written and certainly the podcast. Like people just feel like they can say anything. And
Hmm.
initially people on Instagram / the blog are much nicer, I think, because they
Hmm.
have like sought out the stuff, right? They're,
Hmm.
I don't know, versus like coming across stuff I've written for Slate or somewhere else. At first, it was like I took it so personally that
Hmm.
I deleted Facebook. Like I was like, I don't want this in my life. And a very dear friend said to me basically, you don't know any of these people.
Hmm.
Why does their opinion matter? They are clearly hurting. They are reacting to something you wrote or said, but they do not know you. And that really gave me a good perspective of, yeah, I write this stuff or I, say something on the podcast, but the people that loved me before I said it still love me after I said it. And we're not even talking about, a lot of times it's not even necessarily like, I guess it's controversial, but it's not like I will share that I co-slept, right?
Yeah.
And people feel very strongly. I am
Mhm.
not like anyone who doesn't co-sleep is a monster. Like it's not like I'm saying anything like that. I'm sharing my experience. And she just sort of said like, well, your friends are still your friends. Why are you letting these other people ruin your day? And I was like, that's such a valid point. And she brought out how many people though, like I had discounted all of the people who reach out because things I have said have helped them in some way. And I think, every time I sit down to write a post or to do the podcast, I sort of say to myself, like, I hope today that this reaches someone who needs whatever message I'm putting out there. I hope that someone's parenting is a little bit easier, or that they can be feel not alone, or they can, I don't know, just feel seen by something either I write or say. And if that's happening, because parenthood can be so lonely and so frustrating. And I just remember all of the nights of Googling something in the middle of the night, or seeing, that a friend was also online, like sending them a text and having them text me back, and that being the difference between a terrible day and a good day. I hope that the podcast, the blog, the whatever else is doing that for people, to just say, you're doing a good job. This is hard. This is like extra hard. It's just so hard. I'm finding it worth it, but it's also, if you wake up today and everything you did parenting does not feel worth it, that is completely valid. And we've all had those days, and it's okay. And yes, you just have to get up and do it again tomorrow. And some days that sucks, guys. But I hope that people just feel less alone. But I would say like the community in general is there. And I've learned as much too. Like lots of times people write to say like, hey, you mentioned that you had this problem. Did you try this? And I want to say that the wealth of knowledge that I share is typically gathered from all of the people that I meet or have reached out. Like these ideas are not coming necessarily from my head. They are in the toolbox because another parent said to me, you should be carrying these barf bags with you because they'll change your life. And then they did change my life. And now I tell everyone, the blue bags from Amazon that have their own ring. You have a kid that gets motion sick, 2 of those should be in your purse at all times. They will change your life. There's just a lot of those little things that other parents have taught me.
Yeah, and I really hope today's episode can contribute to that as well, because it was so interesting. How do you see your future, your family's future, now that your kids are kind of getting older? Do you still want to travel, move a million places? Like, what are and obviously you don't have to share if it's a secret or anything, but
No.
I'm interested to see how you kind of envision your future in the coming years.
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, we sort of try to address like with any big change, and I've kind of encapsulated to say like every year, every kid, like we make a decision for every person in the family, but it really comes down to more like these decision points, right? So if we moved here for Jeff's job, when we get another offer, we're going to sit down and talk about it. That's what we do as a family. Why do we want to do this? How are we going to do this? Do we want to move? Do we not want to move? What are we liking? Like making those choices. It doesn't always mean our kids get to tell us, but at the end of the day, we're still the parents and have to make decisions. There's things they don't understand, right? But I hope that we continue to travel. I hope that we continue to see the world. I do not feel like that journey is over. We've had a lot recently of the kids are back in school and versus homeschooling, and we're missing a lot of the homeschooling, but still feel that for right this moment, the being in an international school is the best thing for us. And so we have a lot of conversations about that, about, are we going to go back to homeschooling? When is that going to happen? Like, is that the best choice for us? So I hope that we just like remain open and flexible. Cause I just don't know. The world is a rapidly changing place. And I feel like anytime I try to make long-term plans, things change, right? Isn't that what I feel like that was kind of the lesson from COVID is like, you think you know what's going to happen, and then you have no idea.
Exactly. Well, I wish your family obviously all the best, and I hope you guys can continue to travel and have fun. Where can people find you, connect with you, follow you, and get all of your good advice?
Oh, well, thanks so much for asking. So on Instagram, I'm at EJDN, and that is kind of like, if you want to know what we're doing, see, it's a curated life, but we do still share lots of messy moments. If you want to read about travel, that's going to be at dutchgoose.com. And that's like our adventures and homeschooling and travel. There's lots of advice there. Fun to walk around. But you can hear me twice a week on Mom and Dad Are Fighting, and that's at slate.com.
Highly recommend that one. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here and chat today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. And I just want to say that I love what you're doing here, because I think, like I said, parents need to know they're not alone, and they need to expand their toolbox. And I think that's what this is. Like every episode, you're hearing from people that just add more tools, and you never know when you're going to need that little tip or trick.
And we never had one on traveling. So now I'm super, super pumped because,
just go do it. Just especially listen, if you have a baby, you think that it's hard to travel with them. It is not. It is. They need the same things they need at home. Just get in the car, get in the plane. They might scream, but they're okay. No, seriously though, I think even if it's just to the zoo, there is something about taking your kids out of their comfort zone. It really is kind of easier in some way.
And so enriching for them. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great night.
Thank you.